Hello and welcome back to This Day in History. It is April 29th, 2024. Today is kind of a liquid sunshine day, really. It's not very, there's a couple cloud breaks, but yes, you hear my car again. I do have the belt, I just haven't been able to change that. Oh, that makes for a great video, doesn't it? My apologies. At any rate, it's kind of rainy, and so we're going to get into this day in history for April 29th. First off, let's just go into birthdays, and the first one is a composer, a musician, definitely a mover and shaker in the jazz world. Duke Ellington was born on this day in 1899. 2 years later, in 1901, Emperor Hirohito, he was the Japanese emperor at the time of World War II. He would be born on this day. In 1933, good old Willie Nelson was born. And, I don't think that dude's ever going to die. He just keeps aging and aging and aging. I don't know. All right, Willie Nelson. He was really big in the country music scene from the 50s and on up. So he's been in a couple movies. In the Dukes of Hazzard remake, he played Uncle Jesse. But at any rate, so the other day we talked about Bernie Madoff and how he had gone to prison for his Ponzi scheme. Basically ripped off a lot of people, and he died in prison. Well, as it turns out, that on this day in 1938, that would be the day that he was born. In 1954, comedian Jerry Seinfeld, who he had the Seinfeld show, today is his birthday. On a side note, I never really found Seinfeld to be all that funny. I didn't really particularly care for his brand of humor. I would watch the show if there was nothing else on, and I was just completely bored and I just wanted to watch something on TV. I would watch it on occasion, but for the most part, I wasn't ever really a big Seinfeld fan. But at any rate, it's his birthday today, so happy birthday to him. On this day in 1957, we have two actors that were born on the same day. Daniel Day-Lewis, and he's done a lot of stuff, but I remember him most for his portrayal in The Last of the Mohicans, as well as he did an Abraham Lincoln biopic movie, and I'm escaping it. I think it was just called Lincoln, I'm not sure, but he played Abraham Lincoln, and did a wonderful job at it. So Daniel Day-Lewis's birthday is today. Also, Michelle Pfeiffer, her birthday is today too, and you may know her as Catwoman from Batman, the second Batman movie. She was in a lot of stuff. Lady Hawk. She was in Lady Hawk. That was another good one. Most recently, she was in some of the Marvel movies, the Ant-Man movies. So, yeah, good stuff. So in 2011, on this day, 2011, this is the wedding date of Prince William of England and Catherine Middleton. So they got married on this day in 2011. On this day in 1992, riots would break out in LA, all across LA, the Watts District and the like, all because the four LA County sheriff's deputies that were involved in the Rodney King beating They were acquitted of their charges, and the community went up in arms and just they rioted. As a result of that riot, Denny, what was his name? Not Denny Smith. That guy was a politician. There was a truck driver who was minding his own business, driving through town there. He was trying to deliver a load, and militants, rioters, had pulled him out of his cab and they beat him mercilessly. He barely survived that one. He eventually did, but he was a casualty of that. When it was one of those things where black rioters saw a white guy and they wanted to punish the white guy for the 4 cops getting exonerated, so they beat the crap out of him, which was unfair to him because he wasn't the guy that did what these cops did. So in another twist, those cops would eventually be, I believe they were found guilty on separate charges. It wasn't the charges. I think they were found guilty civilly. But something happened to them, but I don't remember what. It's been so long ago. In 1991, there was a tropical cyclone that swept through Bangladesh, and it killed approximately 140,000 people and destroyed the homes and displaced 10 million people. I mean, that's a pretty huge deal. Oh, I don't even remember that. I think that just kind of didn't even hit my radar blip back then. I mean, I was in high school and kind of off in my own little world. But on this day in 1945, the U.S. 7th Army would liberate the concentration camp Dachau. Tens of thousands would be saved, would be liberated. Of course, this was a Nazi concentration camp, and their prisoners, mostly Jews, I imagine some gypsies, political dissidents, what have you. They were all in this camp, and the 7th Army found them and saved them. So that's a good thing on this day. Going back even further, in the year 1770 on this day, Captain James Cook. This isn't Peter Pan. James Cook was an explorer. He landed on Australia. This is the first landing of Australia, and the area that they landed in was what I guess they called Botany Bay. So that landing was on this day in 1770. And we're going to finish this in 1429. This is during the 100 Years' War between England and France. On this day in 1429, Joan of Arc and her troops would enter the besieged town of Orleans and do what they did. That was there wasn't a whole lot of details on that other than they entered this besieged town. Which means it was probably held by the British, the English, and the French finally broke through the siege, and so Joan of Arc and her troop, the troops that she led, they entered this besieged town and took over. She was a very interesting character. She claimed to have had a divine vision from God to lead the French people to glory and to see the Dauphin, which is French for prince, crowned King of France. And that was her sole. She felt like that was her sole purpose. She was eventually it's a little rusty, but she was eventually, I believe she was burned at the stake as a heretic. But the church had considered her a heretic because she was female. She was very opinionated to everybody about how things should be. Basically, it was in a patriarchal society. They weren't going to have a female telling them how things should be. I believe there was also some issues with her leading troops. They weren't as progressive as they are now. Back then, a woman's place was in the kitchen. It was, not that offensive, sorry, but that's how it was. The woman's place was in the homestead. It wasn't out fighting wars. It wasn't out there demanding public policies or anything like that. It was, to know your role and to serve your man. And she was not that at all. She was very much a pioneer before her time when it comes to women's suffrage. So that was, she's someone that women all over the world can look up to. Historically speaking, it is said that she was a bit of a nut job. Again, because she claimed that she heard the clear voice of God telling her this was His vision for her, and that she was enacting that the men of the time thought that she was just crazy, and she was listening to the little voices in her head. So she was amazing. She was an amazing character in French history, and now she's revered. There's statues dedicated to her, and the French people revere her for her courage and for her exploits and all that. But in her time, she wasn't revered; she was reviled. That was Joan of Arc. So that concludes this day in history. Now I'm starting to see some sunshine here. Go figure. Liquid sunshine where I live, and go up a few miles and it's clear. At any rate, we will do this again tomorrow for April 30th for this day in history. Thanks for joining me, and hope you enjoyed this little day in history and these historical trivia nuggets. So there you go. Have a great day, be blessed, and we will be back here again tomorrow and do the same thing. And so take care. Talk to you later. Bye.